the bustling city of Cyprus around 300 BC lived a wealthy merchant named Zeno. His life was defined by prosperity, trade, and success, until one fateful voyage changed everything. While journeying from Phoenicia to Piraeus, disaster struck. His ship, filled with precious cargo, was swallowed by the sea, leaving him with nothing. Imagine being in his position. One moment you are at the peak of your achievements, and the next, the forces of nature reduce your life's work to a watery grave. How would you react? Would anger consume you? Would despair paralyze you? Would you curse fate for its cruelty? For most people, these emotions would be natural. But for Zeno, the man who would later lay the foundation for Stoicism, his response was vastly different. This singular event, devastating as it was, set him on a new path, one that would shape the way countless generations view life, adversity, and inner strength. Instead of lamenting his loss, Zeno embraced it. He sought wisdom, studied the teachings of Socrates and other great thinkers, and, ultimately, created and taught the philosophy of Stoicism. At its core, Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions, nor is it about pretending that suffering does not exist. Instead, it is about understanding that suffering is inevitable and choosing how to respond to it. It is a philosophy of resilience, acceptance, and unshakable mental strength. Today, Stoicism is often misunderstood. Many assume it means detachment, coldness, or an absence of emotion. In truth, it is the opposite. Stoicism is about fully experiencing life without being ruled by its chaos. It is about cultivating a mindset that is immune to external disruptions. Zeno's loss did not break him, it rebuilt him. And in that rebuilding, he crafted a way of thinking so powerful that it has withstood the test of time. From ancient Greece to modern-day challenges, Stoicism remains an unbreakable foundation for those who seek true strength. But how exactly does one adopt this philosophy? How does it change the way we navigate life's hardships? And most importantly, how can it make you truly unbreakable? Let's explore. Historical Stoics and their contributions. Stoicism was not merely a set of abstract ideas. It was a philosophy that was actively lived, tested, and refined by some of history's greatest minds. Unlike other schools of thought that were locked away in the halls of academia or confined to the privileged elite, Stoicism was meant for everyone. It was a philosophy forged in the real world, applied by those who faced hardship, power, servitude, and war. One of the earliest and most influential Stoics was Epictetus, whose name itself means acquired, a reminder that he was born into slavery. He did not come from a life of luxury, nor did he study philosophy as a hobby. Instead, he was forced to learn resilience from the moment he entered the world. Through sheer will and wisdom, Epictetus transformed his existence, rising from a life of servitude to become one of the greatest teachers of Stoicism. His philosophy was rooted in a simple but powerful truth. We do not control what happens to us, but we always control how we respond. Then came Seneca, a statesman and advisor to Emperor Nero. Unlike Epictetus, Seneca was a man of privilege, but that privilege did not shield him from suffering. He experienced betrayal, political exile, and ultimately was ordered to take his own life. Yet, even in death, he remained true to his Stoic principles, meeting his fate with calm acceptance, proving that philosophy was not just something to be spoken, but something to be lived. And then, at the very pinnacle of power stood Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor. He was one of the most powerful men in history, yet his greatest battles were not fought with swords, but within his own mind. As emperor, he faced wars, plagues, political conspiracies, and personal loss. But through it all, he remained anchored in Stoic wisdom, leaving behind one of the most influential works of philosophy ever written, Meditations. His writings were not meant for public consumption. They were private reflections, a personal guide for himself, a way to remind himself that power, wealth, and status are fleeting, but virtue is eternal. Unlike many rulers before him, Marcus Aurelius did not see philosophy as something separate from leadership. Instead, he embodied Stoic principles in his rule, demonstrating that wisdom, justice, and self-discipline could shape not only a single life, but an entire empire. Beyond these three figures, Stoicism shaped the very foundation of human progress. The Stoics rejected divisions of class, race, and gender. They did not believe that philosophy should be restricted to an elite few. In fact, they even coined the term cosmopolitan, meaning citizen of the world, an idea that transcended borders, emphasizing that all humans are connected by their shared experience of life and suffering. At a time when women were excluded from intellectual pursuits, Stoicism defied the norms. One of the greatest Stoic teachers, Musonius Rufus, firmly believed that philosophy was not just for men. He argued that women, just like men, possess the capacity for reason, virtue, and moral strength. In his words, "It is not men alone who possess eagerness and a natural inclination towards virtue, but women also. Women are pleased no less than men by noble and just deeds, and reject the opposite of such actions." This belief, that Stoicism was a philosophy for all, not just for a privileged few, was one of the reasons why it endured for centuries. It was not about who you were born as, but how you chose to live. Whether you were a slave, a senator, or an emperor, the same truth applied. The only thing that truly belongs to you is your mind, and the strength to control it determines the quality of your life. And that is why, thousands of years later, the wisdom of the Stoics still resonates as deeply as ever. Core Stoic philosophy. One small shift in perspective can alter the course of an entire lifetime. A single change in how we frame our thoughts can create ripples that shape the way we experience the world. This is the essence of Stoicism, not simply enduring life's hardships, but understanding them in a way that empowers us rather than defeats us. At its foundation, Stoicism is often mistaken for emotional numbness, as if to be Stoic is to be indifferent to pain, joy, or the highs and lows of life. But the truth is far deeper. Stoicism is not about erasing emotion, it is about mastering it. It is the ability to face misfortune with clarity, to stand firm in the face of chaos, and to accept reality without resistance. Zeno's philosophy teaches that while we have little control over what happens to us, we have absolute control over how we interpret and react to it. When his ship sank, he could have allowed the weight of his loss to crush him, but instead he chose a different path, one of composure, acceptance, and wisdom. This is why Stoicism remains one of the most powerful philosophies ever developed. It does not promise a life without suffering. Instead, it offers the tools to endure suffering without breaking. In today's world, people often view Stoics as individuals who seem impervious, unshaken by setbacks, unbothered by emotional extremes, and resistant to anger or anxiety. But this is only part of the picture. The true Stoic mindset goes beyond mere detachment. It is a complete philosophy for understanding life itself. The core teachings of Stoicism are as relevant now as they were thousands of years ago. They help us process negative emotions, find wisdom in hardship, and develop a unique perspective on the world, one that allows us to navigate life's uncertainties with unwavering strength. In ancient Greece, philosophy was not confined to lecture halls or exclusive schools. The early Stoics believed that wisdom should be shared openly, that it should not belong only to the elite but to anyone willing to learn. Unlike other philosophical movements that were reserved for kings, aristocrats, or scholars, Stoicism was accessible to all. That is why the Stoics did not isolate themselves behind palace walls or academic institutions. They gathered in public spaces, engaging in discussions that anyone, from slaves to emperors, could participate in. To them, philosophy was not an abstract exercise, it was a way of living, a method for approaching every moment with clarity and purpose. This openness led to Stoicism being adopted by people from every walk of life. Some of history's greatest minds embraced it, not because they sought power or prestige, but because they understood that true strength comes not from wealth or status, but from mastering one's mind. Among the most influential Stoics were Epictetus, a former slave whose teachings would shape generations; Seneca, a statesman who balanced power with philosophy; and Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who ruled with wisdom rather than cruelty. Their lives were vastly different, yet they all found the same truth. Happiness and resilience lie not in external fortune, but in how we choose to respond to life's challenges. Their legacy serves as proof that Stoicism is not just a philosophy, it is a way of life, a way to build an unbreakable mind. The Dichotomy of Control. One of the most powerful lessons in Stoicism, perhaps its most essential principle, is the dichotomy of control. It is a simple yet profound truth. There are things in life we can control, and there are things we cannot. If we fail to recognize the difference, we will spend our lives suffering over circumstances we were never meant to change. Think about the last time you felt frustrated. Was it because of something you had power over, or was it because of something outside your control? More often than not, our greatest anxieties come from our attachment to things we cannot change. The opinions of others, the unpredictable outcomes of our efforts, the forces of nature, or even the actions of people around us. Stoicism teaches us to stop wasting energy on what is beyond our grasp. Instead, we must redirect our focus inward to what we do have control over: our thoughts, our actions, our reactions. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus put it best when he said, "The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control." In essence, if something is not within our power to change, then why torment ourselves over it? Instead, we should accept it and shift our attention to what we can influence. This mindset creates mental clarity, emotional stability, and true freedom. Consider this in the modern world. Many people define their success by external measures: views, likes, followers, or wealth. Take the example of a YouTube creator. They put in hours of effort scripting, filming, and editing their video. They choose the title, the thumbnail, the music, and every other detail within their control. But once the video is uploaded, what happens next is out of their hands. The algorithm decides how many people will see it. Viewers decide whether they will engage with it. The external response is something they cannot control. If this creator judges their success only by views and subscribers, they will always be chasing something they cannot fully control. But if they judge their success based on the effort they put in, they can take pride in their work, regardless of the outcome. This is the Stoic mindset: to focus on the effort, not the result. To find peace in what is within our control, rather than stressing over what is not. This applies to every aspect of life. Imagine a man who has been working tirelessly at his job, hoping for a promotion. He prepares, works hard, and delivers outstanding results. But when he finally asks his boss for the promotion, he is denied. If he attaches his sense of worth to the outcome, he will feel defeated, questioning his abilities and spiraling into disappointment. But a true Stoic sees it differently. He understands that the decision was never fully his. It could have been influenced by factors outside his knowledge: the company's financial struggles, office politics, or even his boss's personal mood that day. Instead of despairing, he focuses on what he can control: his work ethic, his dedication, and his continued self-improvement. By adopting this perspective, setbacks do not become failures, they become delays. A rejection today does not mean failure forever. And most importantly, his self-worth remains intact because it is not tied to external approval. This is the power of the dichotomy of control. It teaches us to detach from the uncontrollable and master our response to life's uncertainties. When we stop letting external forces dictate our emotions, we become truly unbreakable. The practical benefits of Stoicism. In a world filled with unpredictable twists and turns, it is easy to become overwhelmed by our emotions. One moment, life seems to be going exactly as planned. The next, an unexpected hardship throws everything into chaos. We do not suffer simply because bad things happen. We suffer because we do not expect them to happen. Stoicism teaches us a fundamental truth. Everything that can go wrong eventually will go wrong. Rather than fearing it, we must prepare for it. Instead of clinging to the illusion that life will always be comfortable, we must train our minds to endure discomfort before it arrives. This is why Stoics practice voluntary discomfort, an exercise that helps build resilience and gratitude in the face of inevitable hardship. Imagine sleeping on the floor instead of your bed for a night, taking a cold shower instead of a warm one, eating only the most basic food for a few days. These small, controlled hardships may seem unnecessary, but they serve a powerful purpose. They remind us that, even in discomfort, we can survive. Even in adversity, we can adapt. By willingly embracing small hardships, we strip them of their power over us. In today's world, this mindset is more relevant than ever. We live in an age where advertisements constantly tell us we are not enough. If we do not have the latest gadgets, the perfect body, the dream house, or a massive bank account, we are made to believe that we are failing. We are conditioned to think that happiness is something we must acquire, that it exists in the next purchase, the next achievement, the next external validation. But Stoicism flips this idea on its head. It teaches that happiness does not come from what we own, but from how we think. The more we chase external things, the more we become prisoners of them. We work endlessly to afford luxury, only to realize that luxury itself becomes a burden. The stress of maintaining it, the fear of losing it, the endless desire for more. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, understood this well. He once wrote, "Learning to live with less will create space in your life for the things that truly matter." This is why true Stoics do not seek happiness in possessions, wealth, or social status. They understand that all of these things are temporary. A car will break down, a house can be destroyed by disaster, even the closest relationships can change or end. If our happiness depends on these things, we are setting ourselves up for inevitable disappointment. Instead, Stoicism teaches that happiness must come from within. The only true source of peace is our own mindset, our ability to stay grounded in the present, to accept what we cannot control, and to find fulfillment in what we already have. This shift in perspective is life-changing. When we stop chasing external validation, we become free. We are no longer slaves to materialism, no longer at the mercy of other people's opinions. We stop believing that success is measured by money or fame, and instead we focus on what truly matters: our character, our resilience, our ability to navigate life with wisdom and strength. The world will always try to convince us that we need more to be happy. Stoicism reminds us that we already have everything we need if we only learn how to see it. The 4 Stoic virtues. At the heart of Stoicism lie 4 fundamental principles: wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. These virtues form the foundation of a resilient and purposeful life. They are not just abstract ideals, but practical tools for navigating the chaos of existence with clarity and strength. Wisdom, the power of perception. Wisdom is the ability to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. It is the practice of seeing things as they are, free from personal bias, wishful thinking, or fear. A wise person does not waste time complaining about fate or dwelling on the past. They focus on the present moment and what can be done right now. The great Stoic philosopher Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, encapsulated this idea when he wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response." Wisdom is about making that choice consciously. about responding to life with logic and composure rather than impulse and emotion. It is about understanding that the world does not conform to our desires, but we can always choose how we respond to it. Courage, the strength to persist and resist. Courage in Stoicism is not just about heroic acts on the battlefield. It is about having the strength to face life's daily challenges with dignity. Courage is needed to pursue truth, to stand firm in one's beliefs, and to endure hardships without losing oneself. Two simple words define Stoic courage: persist and resist. Persist in the pursuit of what is right. Resist the temptation to give in to fear, anger, or despair. Stoicism does not promise a life without pain. It teaches that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. It is the courage to face discomfort willingly, to take bold action in the face of adversity, and to recognize that growth comes only through challenge. Temperance, the strength of moderation. Temperance, or moderation, is the art of self-control, the ability to balance desires, emotions, and actions. It is about doing enough, but never too much. We live in a world of excess, endless consumption, instant gratification, and constant distractions. Society tells us that we must always have more, do more, be more, but Stoicism reminds us that less is often more. A Stoic does not indulge recklessly, nor do they deprive themselves unnecessarily. They practice discipline, eating not for pleasure, but for nourishment, spending not for status, but for necessity, speaking not to impress, but to communicate meaningfully. Even in speech, temperance is key. As Marcus Aurelius taught, sometimes saying less is saying more. In just a few words we can convey great meaning. In restraint we find strength. Justice, the duty to do what is right. Justice is the most important of all the Stoic virtues. It is not just about fairness in law, but about living with integrity, treating others with dignity, and doing what is right, even when no one is watching. Unlike modern philosophies that emphasize self-interest above all, Stoicism teaches that we are born not just for ourselves, but for each other. We are part of a greater whole, and our purpose is not simply to take, but to give. Justice is the virtue that reminds us not to harm others, not to act out of selfishness, but to seek the greater good. True Stoics do not act based on what is easy or profitable, but based on what is right. One of history's greatest examples of Stoic justice was Nelson Mandela. After spending 27 years in prison, he had every reason to seek revenge, but instead he chose reconciliation. He urged his people to move forward, not with hatred, but with unity. This is the essence of Stoic justice. Understanding that the past is beyond our control, but how we move forward is entirely up to us. Living by the four virtues. These four principles, wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, are not just concepts to admire, but guidelines to live by. They shape how we think, act, and treat others. They provide a framework for true strength, one that is not dependent on external success, but on the mastery of oneself. To be truly unbreakable, one must not only understand these virtues but embody them. A wise mind, a courageous heart, a disciplined will, and a just soul. These are the marks of a Stoic, and they are within everyone's reach. Stoicism in modern psychology. Stoicism is not just an ancient philosophy, it is a mindset that has deeply influenced modern psychology and therapy, particularly in the fields of rational emotive behavioral therapy, REBT, and logotherapy. These psychological approaches are built on the same core principles of Stoicism, the idea that our suffering does not come from external events themselves, but from how we perceive and react to them. Rational emotive behavioral therapy. REBT, developed by psychologist Albert Ellis, is directly inspired by Stoic thinking. It teaches that many of our emotional and behavioral problems come from irrational beliefs, assumptions we make about ourselves, others, or the world that are distorted, extreme, or unrealistic. For example, if a person believes, "I must be liked by everyone," or "I am worthless," they are setting themselves up for unnecessary suffering. Life will never guarantee universal approval, and yet many people spend years anxious and frustrated over things outside their control. BBT challenges these negative thought patterns. It forces individuals to examine whether their beliefs are rational, and if not, to replace them with more logical and constructive ones. This approach is strikingly similar to what the Stoics taught thousands of years ago. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. Epictetus. The key takeaway? We can challenge our own minds. We do not have to be slaves to destructive emotions. By actively questioning our thoughts and changing our mental responses, we can free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Logotherapy. Finding purpose in suffering. Another psychological approach, rooted in Stoicism, is logotherapy, developed by Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist. Logotherapy is based on the belief that humans are driven by a sense of purpose, that even in the darkest situations, we can find meaning and direction. Frankl himself endured unimaginable suffering in Nazi concentration camps, losing his family and facing starvation, torture, and death. Yet, through it all, he observed something profound. Those who had a strong sense of purpose, a reason to live beyond themselves, were far more likely to survive and endure hardship. Those who lost their sense of meaning, who saw no future or purpose, were far more likely to collapse under despair. This is exactly what Stoicism teaches. Life will bring pain, loss, and suffering, but we always have a choice. To see suffering as meaningless and be destroyed by it, to find purpose in suffering, to learn from it, and to grow stronger because of it. Frankl's famous words reflect this perfectly. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. This is the Stoic mindset in action. The understanding that we cannot always control our circumstances, but we can always control our response to them. The Stoic mindset, a tool for modern life. Both REBT and logotherapy prove that Stoicism is not just an ancient philosophy, it is a practical system for modern mental health. In today's world where stress, anxiety, and uncertainty are constant challenges, the Stoic approach is more relevant than ever. Instead of being controlled by emotions, we can question them. Instead of clinging to unrealistic expectations, we can accept what we cannot change. Instead of seeing pain as pointless, we can find meaning in hardship. Stoicism teaches us to take ownership of our minds, and when we do, we stop being victims of life's chaos. We become masters of our own fate. Stoicism in action. Nelson Mandela. One of the greatest real-world examples of Stoic resilience, wisdom, and justice is Nelson Mandela. His life was a testament to the idea that, while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. Mandela's story is well known. He was a leader in the fight against apartheid in South Africa, a system of extreme racial segregation and oppression. Because of his activism, he was imprisoned for 27 years, spending much of that time in a small cell, subjected to harsh conditions, cut off from the world. For nearly 3 decades, his freedom was taken from him. Most people in his position would have emerged from prison filled with hatred, anger, and a thirst for revenge. It would have been easy to seek retribution against those who had oppressed him and his people. But instead of allowing his circumstances to define him, Mandela did something remarkable. He chose forgiveness. During his time in prison, Mandela read the works of Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers. He absorbed the lessons of self-discipline, emotional control, and acceptance of fate. He understood that dwelling on the past or seeking vengeance would not build a better future. He chose to focus on what he could control: his mindset, his response, and his vision for a unified South Africa. When he was finally released from prison and became the first black president of South Africa, many expected him to punish those who had oppressed him. But Mandela did the opposite. He preached unity, not division. He knew that justice was not about revenge, but about creating a better future for everyone. He embodied the Stoic principle that we are not born to harm one another, but to do good for each other. His leadership was rooted in Stoic wisdom. He did not let bitterness control him. He understood that anger is an emotion, but justice is a principle. He remained calm and collected, even in the face of overwhelming injustice. He focused on action, not resentment. Instead of looking backward with rage, he looked forward with purpose. Mandela's life is proof that Stoicism is not just a philosophy of words, it is a philosophy of action. It teaches us that, even in the most difficult circumstances, we can still choose how we respond. His story is a reminder that true strength does not come from power or dominance. It comes from mastering oneself, and in doing so, we gain the ability to shape the world for the better. At its core, Stoicism is not about avoiding pain or suppressing emotions. It is about mastering them. It is about cultivating a mindset so strong, so unshakable, that no external force can control it. The world will always be unpredictable, but our response to it doesn't have to be. We cannot control fate, but we can control our perspective. We cannot stop loss, but we can choose how to carry it. We cannot prevent hardships, but we can train ourselves to endure them with dignity and resilience. This is what it means to be truly unbreakable. It is not about never falling, it is about knowing that, when you do, you will always rise again. If there is one lesson to take from Stoicism, it is this. True strength is not found in wealth, status, or external success. It is found in the ability to face life's greatest challenges with calm, clarity, and control. So the question is, will you let life break you, or will you choose to rise above it? The choice is yours.